Alright, step one, we're going to add gray primer. Allow the primer to dry. Allow to dry and then flip. Spray the other side with primer. Alright, my next step, I'm going to use Rust-Oleum metallic finish. This is copper. And I'm just going to spray a little bit right in here. And then I'm going to go back and touch it up later. Just keep in mind that you have to do your paint in layers, because you don't want to do, like, I'm going to paint some bone right here. You don't want to do that until after you do this, because I'm going to have to go back and touch it up with bone, so I'd be spraying the copper on top of it. So just keep in mind that you need to do it in layers. Alright, the next step I'm going to do, I'm using a Crayon. This is actually a paint and primer, but it's the brown that I have, but that's okay. And this is satin leather brown. I'm going to spray it here to make it look like wood, and I'm going to come back over it with some dry brushing black. Alright, next I'm going to add, it's called Antique White. This is I'm going to use for the bone. This is just a acrylic water-based paint, but it makes a really good bone color, because bone isn't just white. If you want it to have kind of an aged, older look, you would like to have like an off-white. I may do a dry brushing on here because it's given some nice texture here. Dry brushing is where you get just a little bit of paint on your brush, and then whenever you add it to it, it doesn't paint all the way through, and it helps to leave texture behind. Quick note here, if you keep a damp brush with you while you're doing this, because see I'm going around the teeth, You kind of wipe up some of the paint that gets in areas that you don't want it to. So you just kind of wipe it up before it dries. Keeps you from having to go back and do more touch up. Alright, so my black, it's very liquidy, very watery, so I'm going to do a wash instead. And what I'm going to do with that, I'm just going to take a little bit of alcohol, and I'm just going to put a couple drops here. Just a little bit right there. And I'm going to add a little bit of black to it and mix it up. What that's going to do, it's going to make it real watery, so it gets in all the cracks and crevices and evaporates out. And so we just want to do a little bit here. Black is a very strong color, so let's get a little bit there. And I'm just going to kind of come through, and I'm just trying to make it break up that brown so that it looks more like wood or look more old and used. I like to go fast when I do this because you don't want to focus too much on painting. You just want to get that paint up in there so that it can kind of run in there into the little cracks and crevices. See, look, right there, it's a little too thick. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a rag with a little bit of water and just kind of rub that off because I don't like the way that smudge came out. I'm going to also add a little bit of black here to this trigger, just to kind of cover up that red of the toy. Alright, so I flipped it over. I'm adding some more dry brushing to the outside of the stock. I also kind of, I like the way that I got accidentally got some on this primer over here, and I like the way it came out. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to add some dry brushing to the actual metal part. Or not the metal part, but the primered part. Just to kind of break it up, make it look more old, more worn. So you don't need a whole lot of paint, just a little bit. And you just let that paint kind of fall into the crevices. It's almost like doing a wash and dry brushing at the same time here with my consistency of paint. One of the things about painting is you can take mistakes and then turn it into something that you like, or something that looks cool. Just in case you're wondering what toy I'm using the it's the Dino line for the Nerf guns, the Rex Rampage. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to add some green to the eyes. This is the Army Painter War Paint. This is just like a model paint, but it's basically a acrylic. But you can use any kind of acrylic paint that you want. I might see if I can find some glow-in-the-dark paint to put in here for the eyes later. But the glow-in-the-dark paint, for some reason, it doesn't cover up very well. So I find that if you use the color of paint that you want to put in there before, just as like a base coat, it ends up working a lot better. Just because that, for some reason, that glow-in-the-dark paint doesn't really hold color very well. Okay. Now, this stuff is really cool. It's called Silver Rub and Buff. This basically makes things look like metal. They also have like a gold and a copper. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the edges where it will look like that things have knocked up against it, knocking paints off and things like that to make it look like it appears metal underneath. Alright, this next part's very important that you seal your paint, because if you don't, from just picking it up and bumping up against things, your paint's just going to start wearing off. But this is matte clear acrylic sealer. You want to get matte because if not, it's going to come out really shiny. Unless you just want your paint to look shiny, but I prefer to do matte. I would also like to emphasize that it's very important to prime what you're painting. Primer is like a soft paint, and it'll allow your paint to stick to what you're painting. So you're gonna do yourself a lot of justice by priming whatever you're gonna paint, because if you don't, your paint's not gonna stick, and then you're just gonna be upset because you're gonna do all this work and then it's not gonna come out the way you want it.